How do you break through the emotional barriers that could impact your performance and creativity? Welcome to Business Without Barriers, the show helping you turn barriers into success breakthroughs and thrive in a volatile world, and the success revolution bringing humanity back to business. For cutting-edge success insights, be sure to subscribe to bwbtv.net and you'll be notified of new provocative interviews with progressive entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Carmen Wild, and my guest today is Tammy McCrary. Tammy is an entertainment consultant, entrepreneur, and music industry pioneer. She's the CEO and Chief Inspiration Officer of Artistology, created to support the well-being of artists. When the artist thrives, humanity survives, says Tammy. She's the co-founder of the Transcendence Project, a co-creator of the Energy Tuner app, and the co-author of 2 #1 best-selling books. As an artist manager, she successfully guided acts ranging from a pop girl group, an award-winning jazz singer and pianist, to a legendary diva. She executive produced the legendary Chaka Khan Funk This, an album that garnered critical acclaim and 2 Grammy Awards. She also served as a producer of the 2013 Soul Train Music Awards. Tammy co-produced and was featured in Diagnosis, a documentary about autism that won the Emerging Filmmaker Award at the Cannes Film Festival's American Pavilion Showcase. Driven by a desire to help those who are challenged, like her son Talon, who has autism, Tammy co-founded 2 nonprofit organizations. Through Tammy's own artistology and collaborative efforts, artists are empowered to shine. A very warm welcome to you, Tammy.
Thank you, Carmen. Wow. It's like, who's that? Who's she talking about?
Should we know that?
Right. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure and an absolute privilege to have you on the show. And I love that people behind you. It just brings so much beautiful artistology. So lovely.
Thank you so much.
Let's go back to the university days, Tammy. As an artist relations coordinator, you must have had some really cool fun at university, being part of those university concerts.
I did. And that is really where when I started school, my mother really she's like, I want you to be a business manager. I want you to learn to be an accountant so that you can help take care of the family financially. And I started out on that route and I was just so bored. I was so bored. I was like, I can't do this. But then I just did this. I started in the program at Superb Productions and interacting with the artists and helping to put together the production. And I was like in my zone. And I was like, okay, I know I'm going to be doing something where I'm working more closely. I can't sit behind a desk and crunch numbers. That just won't do it for me. So I found then by doing that I really was cut out to connect with and support and work with artists. And it's really interesting because when I look back as like when I was a little girl, like with my cousins, we would all put on our little stage, our little shows in the group basement for a family. And I was that one that was always organizing the shows and making little tickets for everybody. This is where you're going to sit and this is what we're going to do. And so it's just interesting, as a child, those things always show up, like what your core passions are. And so I think, I just kind of found my way to what I was destined to do. And that's work with brilliant creators.
Fantastic. Like you said, it shows up, but we don't always follow it, or we don't always listen to the signals. And it's so beautiful that you went with it. You kind of ignored what the traditional, the parents were saying, and you went with it. That's fantastic. Let's talk about you being the executive producer for the legendary Chaka Khan Funk This. That's really cool to have an album that garnered critical acclaim and 2 Grammy Awards. I mean, Tammy, that's no small feat. Congrats. What was it? What did it take from a producer's perspective to achieve?
So let me put it in context. As an executive producer, first of all, I managed Chaka Khan, who is my sister as well. And I managed her for a couple of decades. And what my role as an executive producer was, I actually brought her together with the producers, which were Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, who actually produced the music.
Yes.
So brought the 2 of them together and then helped with just overseeing, making sure that the project went smoothly, with the record company being the glue that, kind of brought all the pieces together. But actually producing the actual project was Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. I served in the role of executive producer.
Ah, fantastic. Well, so it's in the family. So this artist, what an amazing energy space to be in, and beautiful for your sister to go and achieve that kind of those accolades.
Yes.
So, what's one of the toughest challenges with working with artists? I mean, there's all the glamour, but it's not all glamorous behind the scenes.
What I found the greatest challenge has been is supporting them in being able to authentically express what it is that they would love to express as an artist. Because there's so many variables, there's so many things that are vying for them to go in a different direction than what is authentic, that I've found that that often is the place where, you find artists that become, depressed, anxiety and all those things that we see show up on the tabloids, because, the institutions that are in place that help to get the artists exposed oftentimes encourage a direction that may not be in alignment with what is true for an artist. So what is marketable? What is direction that they feel that the artist should go, which the artist may not feel is authentic for them. So then it creates this challenge within. And then I think that's when it shows up as, like I said, those difficulties. So to see an artist go through that is really what inspired Artistology, was really to create this community and support that helps them to stand in their truth, and other artists that understand that experience who can support them in standing in their truth, and like to create this community that stands for artists really being united in standing in their authenticity, and to be with others who understand the experience of that.
Mm. So you've touched on it. I want to go into it a little bit deeper, just to give context to the depths of what artists are actually going through. I mean, some of the stats on your website is 71% of music artists suffer from anxiety and panic attacks. 69% music artists suffer from depression. 38% of celebrity deaths from substance abuse between 1970 and 2015 were musicians. So that's real tough going there. And what else is going on? I hear you in terms of the authentic expression. What's going on for artists or musicians that this emotional stuff is such a real challenge for them?
I think for anyone that is before the public, where their lives, the things that normal folks go through, only the people in their immediate circle are privy to it. And, they can kind of go through those challenges, semi-privately. But when you are, a major artist, a major opinion leader, anyone who's out there in the public eye, when you go through your stuff, the world is watching. And that puts another level of pressure on a situation that already is carrying a lot of pressure. Mm. So I think that is one major challenging component to that whole thing. But the other thing, like I mentioned, is the incongruency of, doing something that doesn't necessarily align with who you are. Mm. And being able to get back to that, a lot of some artists don't. And that's when we see those horrible statistics of, just that pain gets to be so strong that a person might choose to just opt out, which is what I really am creating this community for, because it just doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. Yeah. So, that's what I think the core issues are, being, and held to having this responsibility of being, an opinion leader that, maybe you don't feel like you want to take all of that on. The unfortunate thing or the fortunate thing is that once you have that platform, it is your responsibility in a lot of ways to take responsibility for the messages that you're putting out, how you're using that platform, because so many eyes are on you and are, especially the youth today, they're the gods. The artists are their role models. And so, if that's the case, then I think, and I think also when you've been gifted with I call it a divinely inspired gift, I think that we do have a responsibility to use it for the betterment of humanity. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole, that's my own personal opinion, but I just think that all of that really ties in. And I think innately creatives, artists are inspired to create from that place. And sometimes we can get off track, and that too can be something that's very troubling. I mean, you may not even know that that's what is, causing you the imbalance or the stress or the pain, but just, not really being able to align with that aspect of yourself too can be challenging.
Mm. As I'm listening to you, there are so many similarities. We may be talking specifically here about musicians, artists, the creative in business. They're going through the same stuff. It's really lonely being the CEO of an organization, being an entrepreneur who has a creative expression and a desire to put value out into the world, and they get in that kickback to pull into a different direction, or the pressure or the incongruency and the responsibilities, and they're in the public eye as well. And so there's so many similarities when you've chosen to put yourself out there and bring that divine gift to the world.
Yes.
So you've brought this amazing company, Artistology, into being to really hold the space and to be this beacon of light for these artists. Tell us a little bit about it. Tell us about your vision, and then go into what you do specifically. And I know there's a methodology that you have. I'd love you to share that as well.
Thank you, Carmen. So Artistology, when I first conceived the idea of starting Artistology, my intention was to start a holistic retreat center specifically for artists. I wanted it to be a place, because I experienced artists going into substance abuse rehab programs to come off of drugs. They come out with a bag full of meds, and I'm going, something's wrong with this picture. And then still, not too long after, a relapse, because we didn't address the root issues that caused them to choose that as a solution in the first place. So as I started researching and going through the process of what I would design a program to look like, in consultation, of course, with other professionals, I came to, what the real issue is getting to the mindset, getting to the issues that cause a person to choose. And so I started going further down that path. And as I went down that path is when I came across those stats that you shared. And it was like, wow, really? And this, mind you, those numbers that you shared were pre-COVID.
Sure.
So imagine what is going on now. I mean, with especially music artists, we don't know when they're going to be able to get back to,
sure,
doing what they do. As far as live performance is concerned, anyway, a lot of artists now are coming together and collaborating, which is awesome. Even virtually, for recordings and things like that. And in studio, because they can do that safely, but it's really a challenging time. Mm-hmm. And so now more than ever, having a community like what we've created with Artistology is so important, because it allows artists to be able to come together, support one another. But the other component that I'm very pleased to be able to share with Artistology, about Artistology, that we're going to be launching in the new year is, I call it creative health. It's mental health support, but it's from the viewpoint of supporting creatives with their mental health. And I make that distinction because I really do believe that creatives, when we address mental health, oftentimes may even be misdiagnosed, I think sometimes, as bipolar or something, where they're looked at as there's a disability, or, well, I won't say a disability, but an illness, a mental health illness, when actually it just might be the unique component that makes them an artist. I think artists naturally have very high highs and very low lows. And that is a part of what makes them who they are. Mm-hmm. They're very in touch with their feelings. They're able to express in such an exuberant way where, and on from both spectrums, very high highs, very low lows. So when you have that ability and you have that openness, then sometimes, you can think that, is this normal? Is this okay that I'm feeling this way? And I think, we've gone so far that with this whole idea of mental illness, that, anything that, goes above or below the range of what's considered a normal emotional range, we have to put a label on it. And it's not okay to have feelings. And, those things, it's natural to have emotions, and we should make that okay, so that people don't think that something's wrong with them. And I think that would help a lot of people. Now, I know that there are definitely cases of people having true mental health issues. And I just think that reframing it, looking at it from a different perspective, can be very empowering and can actually heal people of these mental health issues, creative health issues. So that is, we're actually launching a program in partnership with Get Ahead, which is a platform that allows us to connect therapists, coaches with artists on a HIPAA compliant platform, where they can, if the artist so chooses, can remain anonymous. And the way we do that is the artists, when they become a part of the Artistology community, and they sign up for this program, they share their information for the HIPAA compliant aspect of it, but to also make sure that should they present to be of harm to themselves or someone else, the supervisor who oversees the engagement between the therapist and the artist has access to that information, but the actual therapist doesn't know that this is some big celebrity. They just know that they're dealing with this human being that's before them. And while the platform is video or audio or text, the artist can choose if they want to disclose who they are. Obviously, if they're on video, you're going to know who they are. Mm-hmm. But the idea is that we want to make that process as easy and non, confrontive for them as possible, because it is important that you get the help and the support that you need when you need it, and not have considerations on, what someone's going to think about them, stepping forward and getting the help that they need. And that is another reason why we're really going to be pushing the idea of creative health instead of mental health, just to avoid the whole idea of the stigmas that come with the idea of mental health.
Mm. Wow, Tammy, it's beautiful what you're doing, and the way in which you've thought about it so carefully and niched it and made it so tailored around this target market is really powerful. This idea of creative health is, and I really hope that people listening and watching would take some of these, because this is something that could be utilized in so many different ways in different niches. I myself am a huge proponent of not labeling. I have a clinical psychology background, and I've seen the devastating effects of inaccurate labels or premature labels. And so what you're doing here in terms of the creative health is, I would love to see that going beyond artists and us, talking more generally in society about that, because people won't be stigmatized to the extent that they are. So beautiful what you bring into the world, Tammy. It really is beautiful work, and the passion and the energy is there, and the substance is amazing. Tell us a little bit more about, we spoke when we had our intro call about this cycle of invalidation that I also thought was so clever. Share what you're comfortable to share with that.
Oh, sure. No, it is, as I was doing my research, and really, because I really wanted to understand what was the real challenge, the real want and need for the artist, so that we could really serve in a meaningful way. And as I started looking at it, and I mean, this is truly through observation, but a divinely inspired conceptualization of this, because it really is the foundation for which I've further developed the Artistology Methodology, which is our way of addressing this cycle. So the cycle of invalidation begins with a creative creating whatever it is they create. That's what they do. They create it, it gets shared, and once you share it, it gets met with, oftentimes, with criticism. And that criticism can come from outside, but it often can come from within. We can often be our own worst critic, right? So that going into agreement with the criticism then puts you onto this cycle. And once you're onto this cycle, the next thing that usually follows criticism is comparison, because you go, okay, well, if there's something flawed, there's something wrong with what I've created, then let me look at some other things that are doing better or, more successful. And so you start to compare yourself. And then that comparison then leads to competition. You go, well, that's good. That's better. I'm going to be even better. And so that, and when you think about it, and especially in the space of artistry, particularly in the space of artistry, I really don't think that competition has a place, because art is unique unto each individual. And competition really doesn't have a place, yet we've built a whole industry around competition. I mean, the award shows, we talked about the Grammy, or these, and now we have talent competitions. We have all of these things. And they, while, they're very entertaining for the observer, when you really, strip it away and think about it, essentially, is there really one great song all year? One great film all year? Do we, as consumers, do we consume just this? We go to certain music to feel a certain way, and you want different things at different times, and there's no categorization in that way that I think. So the idea of competition, going back to the cycle. So we have criticism, we have comparison, we have competition. And then the next one is compromise. And that is what I call the real danger zone, because once you go into compromise, each of these steps along the way, you've moved away from your authentic truth, your authentic expression, because you've started modifying it as you go into comparison, as you go into being competitive. But then when you go into compromise, you've basically just, you've dropped what was your authentic expression, and you've said, okay, I'm going to go this way. And you completely compromise your own authentic expression. That compromise leads to internal conflict, because now you're not pleased with what this is that you've created, which is actually an extension of you. And then confusion, which is the lowest condition a person can be in. And so it creates this dwindling spiral that is going in the wrong direction. And it leads to those numbers that we talked about of, depression, anxiety, and substance abuse. And the worst is suicide. So when we look at creative health, we want to unwind that cycle, and we want to make sure that we anchor artists in what we call the 7 steps. And if you notice, there are all these C's. So they're the 7 C's of that invalidating cycle, but then there's also the 7 C's of creative health. And it starts with being anchored in the certainty of who you are as a creative being, as a spiritual being, and then being committed to your expression, your creative expression, having competence in what you do, shoring up your skill set, your abilities, becoming more confident and competent in what you're doing, having compassion for yourself. I mean, like I said, we can be our own worst critic. So, as you're going through your process, having self-compassion, and then also having compassion for the criticizer, because we know as we grow in consciousness and awareness, when a person is critical of you, really, they're critical of themselves. It's not about you, right? It's really about them, and coming to, a consciousness of that. And I think it's really important for that understanding to be there for artists to not take it on. And then being a part of a community where we really help to support these ideas, these steps of creative health, and being in community. And then contribution is another key component, because I found that when you get into those places of getting to those low lows, the best way to come back up is to step out of your stuff and go out, support, and be of service to other people. So contribution is a really important component of this process. And then ultimately the seventh C is consciousness, is being aware of all of these steps and consciously choosing to be responsible for yourself and what you're putting out into the world. Ultimately, my goal with Artistology is to have a community of artists that take responsibility for their messages, because I believe that artists are the cultural architects of our society. I believe that the messages that are delivered through music, film, television, gaming, all of these mediums are what we then see manifest in our world. Mm-hmm. And so if we want to see a different world, I think that artists have a huge role to play in that shift. And so if I can have any part in helping to bring that consciousness, that awareness, that support for artists to be able to do that and stand in that truth, then that's what I'm here for. And so that's why Artistology is a place where artists thrive, because I really do believe that when artists are thriving, then we can create a world where humanity has the ability to survive. If that makes sense.
Wow. What you've just explained in the last few minutes is so deeply powerful, Tammy, and so needed in our society. The steps are pure genius and so relatable in so many different ways, in relationships, in business, in self-expression, in just having a voice. There's just so many different ways that these steps can be applied. And there's just privilege. It's such a privileged opportunity for artists to have this place to come to, and this community and this help that you're providing. So thank you for bringing this genius ability into the world and sharing it with us as well, because it's so applicable in so many different areas.
It's true. Well, the secret is we're all artists. We're all artists, right? We're all created by the creator of all that is. And I think that ultimately, that's our role, to create whatever is that passion within our hearts. When we're doing that, whatever it is that you do, that's your artistry. Yeah. If you're a dentist, if you're an accountant, there's people that wanted to be that accountant that's brilliant at it, that's their path and that's their artistry. And so I think that's really important. I just think at the end of the day, you need to do what you love to do. Whatever it is that you love to do, that's your artistry,
Absolutely. And it's just, when you put it in that way, that whether you're a chartered accountant, a mechanic, an artist, drawing, doesn't matter. Yes. Just a mom. A mom is an artist. She does it. So if we think about this creative expression and how important it is for us to be authentic and be integrous and be who we truly are within our core, we wouldn't have the mental health conditions, the emotional conditions that we have, that is actually at the root of all physical illnesses. And our world would be so much better a place. And I'm so with you in terms of, I've often thought about what our younger generation is listening in terms of the rap singing and the kind of narrative coming through and how that's on an unconscious level impact. So what you're saying is so critically important in terms of the impact artists have on wider society. Amazing, very powerful stuff, Tammy, and thank you for being willing to share that model with us, because it's really deep and beautiful. Thank you. So tell us a little bit more about so you're going to take them through this process And is that so the wellness side, the creative health, is that your vision, or is there a vision beyond that? You know, when they are healthy and well, is the community going to then keep them and maintain that?
Yeah, so the community is designed to be a place for collaboration. Within the community, we have what I call collaboratories, which are groups where artists of different interests, if different, artists who are into graphic design, filmmaking, and where our focus is on music artists, but we also invite creatives of all different disciplines to be a part of the community, because we really want to inspire collaboration. And really want to really put forth, similar to, that's where we really connected, right? It's not about competition, it's about collaboration. And that is all of that. That's what artistology is about as well. It's, really reframing that whole idea and creating a different mindset around that with creative community. Because I think that there's so much that, can happen transformatively in our world when we come together with that spirit in all industries. I just think that we're coming into a new era of just reframing the way we approach, all different industry, but especially for artists. I think that when we come together collaboratively to create, with the intention of creating responsibly, I think that there's real magic that can, and I've already seen begin to take place within the community. So yeah, my vision is, first of all, just to nurture and provide this place where we are nurturing creative health for the artists so that they are healthy and supported, but then at the same time, a sacred space and container for them to co-create and collaborate together.
It's such a magical picture if we were to play with the idea of humanity being reset and us all maybe coming into this space as artists in our unique form, creatively expressing what we're here to be doing and collaborating rather than competing, and connecting, and allowing each person that opportunity to just add value through that creative art that they're meant to. Our entire planet would be a completely different planet. And it takes like yours to start the magic.
So true. And it's really just a shift in perspective around it, really.
Yes.
It's just a shift, because we've been working from this whole idea of lack, limitation, and competition. And that's one perspective. But if we shift that, there's so much abundance, there's so much opportunity, and there's so much that is there within each of us that we stay limited. One thing that I often ask, within our community, I do member spotlights of our members, and I do an interview with them, and I ask them a variety of questions. One of the questions I ask is, what are some of your other creative expressions? Because we know, if you're a singer, you're popular as a singer, when you go into the space of being an actor or a director or some of these, sometimes it's really challenging for people to be able to accept you wearing a different hat because they're used to you being, a certain thing. I've heard many of artists say, my greatest challenge is, just people being able to accept that I can express in other ways. And so I think that is really an important thing too, is just for us to be able to not put limitations on ourselves. I mean, there's so many things that we are, when we open up, and I think that artists are the ones that really show us how to be a free spirit and to open up to all of the gifts and talents that are within us, that, there's there's just so much abundance within ourselves as individuals and our world as a whole. And when we can look at it that way, and we can, respect others in that way, I think that there's so much power, and there's so much that we can evolve to, it's an exciting time. I mean, I know that we're going through our birthing pains right now, but I really do believe that we're coming into a time that like no other. And it's going to take us going through this to get there. But I think we're going to get there.
Yes.
I think we're going to get there.
I agree. It's beautiful to listen to you, Tammy. You bubbly over. And it's tangible, and it's yummy. And
that's my word.
It's my word too. But we can share it.
We can share it.
And what's interesting is every single person who comes onto this show is working in their gift, and working in your gift, you bubble over. And yes, we acknowledge that there are challenges, and we're going through some of the toughest challenges humanity has ever seen. But within those challenges are the greatest opportunities humanity has ever seen. And it takes the artist in each of us to express even more, to be even more passionate, to bring more, to collaborate more. And it's beautiful. It's like written all over your face. Just it's just it's really beautiful.
Thank you.
And I love the pictures that we're creating, because I also believe, through the show, one of the payoff lines is together we can write a new human story. And it's when we are connecting and collaborating and co-creating and value through our creative and authentic expression that we start losing the limitations, because there aren't actually limitations except what's here. And
thank you, Car. That's why I just absolutely, when we first talked, I just fell in love. I thought, because we so align. What you're about is it's almost like I was listening to myself when you shared what you're up to. And so I'm just so excited to see, that you're creating this in the business space, because it's so important. Like you said, I mean, entrepreneurs, go through the same challenges. I mean, I go through the same challenges myself. That's why I can identify, So I honor you, and I thank you for what you're doing. And I thank you for this opportunity for me to be able to share Artistology. And I look forward to us collaborating and co-creating together, because artists need brilliant business minds to support them as well.
Yeah.
So everybody's got a role here.
And this is this beautiful cross-pollination and collaboration that's happening in our world. And I'm seeing it more and more and more, where the competition is falling away and the collaboration is happening, and people are pulling their beautiful minds together, and richness can only come from it.
Absolutely.
Tammy, there's a side to you that makes you a pretty spectacular woman, and I want to touch on it briefly, because so many, my own sister-in-law has gone through something similar to what you have in terms of having a child, a special needs child. And as a creative, an entrepreneur, and to be a mom with a special needs child, that's quite a lot. How have you managed to stay so composed? You have such beautiful energy. No one would probably even have any idea what's going on for you, challenges that you experience. How have you done it? What has given you that?
I have two sons, and my eldest son, Talon, he's now 23.
Sure.
Can't believe it. He's my son who's on the spectrum, and I've heard actually Johnson, who introduced us, shared a term with me, which I'm embracing, called neurodiverse instead of autistic, or labeling, like we talk about. We don't want to put the labels, but neurodiverse. I like that because when you hear interviews, I mean, first of all, with autism, it is a broad spectrum. There are, people that are savant level, then there's major behavioral challenges, at the other end of the spectrum. My son is in the middle. He's nonverbal mostly. And he's very mild mannered. Sometimes when he's frustrated with not being able to communicate what's going on with him, then that's when, behaviors might show up a little more. But I often say that talent is my greatest teacher. I feel blessed. I believe that, I have a very kind of esoteric viewpoint on a lot of things, but I feel like we chose each other for this experience together. And I feel honored that, he chose me. I'm a better woman for being Talon's mom. And, one of the things that he gave me the biggest life lesson I've ever had when he was 16. And I had just finished reading Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now. And I had this in my office on my board. I had this saying that I had created called "The present is a present that is present." And just a reminder to just be in the present moment, because right there, no problems exist. Well, he gave me the greatest test of that one Sunday afternoon. We had a block party on our street, and he and his brother went out for a bike ride, and he chose to go a different direction. And we couldn't find him. We couldn't find him for 8 hours. Oh. I was making signs saying missing child, and our whole family was out looking for him. And we eventually found him, but skinny dipping, by the way, in a park, not too far away. But what kept me was staying in the moment. When I was making those signs, I was making those sounds, and never did I allow myself to go to, what if? I never went there. And I think that is what made me be able to get through that time. And he really taught me. I got a practical lesson in being in the present. And I understand how powerful that is. It really is not just a saying. It really is a powerful tool if you really understand that. So, and speaking of that, even with mental health, what I've found is anxiety is when you are anticipating the future. Mm-hmm. And depression is when you're ruminating on the past. Mm-hmm. So if you can be in the present moment, then you can navigate depression and anxiety. So that's a really important. So you asked me about my son, but anyway, Talon is my greatest teacher. And that is how I've been able to navigate, is just having the perspective and looking at him in that way. And experiencing him that way.
Sure. And it's such an incredible example of how our greatest challenges can be our greatest blessings. If you choose, again, like you've said so often, is to reframe it and to allow yourself to see that blessing in the challenge.
But let me say, because I know what I just shared sounds very evolved and, maybe not as real. The real part of it is, when he was first diagnosed, it was very, very challenging for me. I blamed myself because he had normal developmental milestones. He was a healthy toddler, 9.9 APGAR at birth. He was a very healthy baby. Mm-hmm. I always went to holistic practitioners, had really decided as a mother that I didn't need to vaccinate him. But when I was pregnant with my second son, my pediatrician said, you really you might want to reconsider that, bring another baby into the household. He's old enough. If you have any concerns about, his immune system not being able to handle it, I think he's old enough. So I said, okay. He was a little over 3 when we actually got his MMR vaccine. And literally after he got his vaccine, I saw my child disappear. And I know that there's different viewpoints. Everybody has their own experience and their own viewpoint around it. But for me, I saw what happened to my son as a result of vaccination. And so I went through a long period of time where I blamed myself. I had so much hurt, pain, and resentment because I felt like I caused this to happen to my son. And, through a lot of work and a lot of, coming to different perspectives and understandings around the whole experience, I've come to the place where now I can appreciate, who we both are. But, the journey there was not an easy one. I'll just say.
Yes. However, look at what the fruit is. So you went through a tough time, blaming yourself, going through all those emotional highs and lows.
Yeah. And
you've come through this incredible journey where now you've created a methodology that where you yourself, this is not something that you've it's looking through a shop window and you think that, okay, you can pick and choose. You've been through it. You understand the emotional highs and lows. You've been through a tough experience as a mother that's torn you. And not only through your organizations that has now served how many others through the research and everything that, so you've gifted not only your son with the way in which you are, but other people through his condition, and now gone beyond that. So it's the journey that of life, and as its ebbs and flows, and you've gone with that, and what an incredible foundational side that's brought you into this place where you can help other artists now. Incredible story, Tammy.
Thank you.
What do you think is the future for artists? Given the challenges, what in spite of the challenges, let me rephrase that. In spite of the challenges, what excites you about the opportunities for artists?
What excites me is that I think I often say that I think, especially in the music space, that we go through these different eras of different sounds and styles, right? And I always say that I think the next new wave, the next new style of music is going to be music that literally transforms and heals humanity. Like you go to a concert and the sounds that are used, the lighting that is used, it's like an immersive experience where you literally walk in one way and you come out another way. And I think that we are coming to a place now where we're really understanding that frequency, sound, vibration, we know that it literally can transform the body, matter. And so I think that we'll evolve into a place where, with all the art forms, where, we bring them together and we create these experiences that are transformative. And that's what the Transcendence Project is. That's something that it's been on the table for a long time. We've been, just conceptualizing it and working on it. But that is my vision for artists, is to be able to work collaboratively to create experiences that are transformative for humanity.
Where can I buy tickets?
Right. Yeah, and I will let you know, because we are going to make that happen. We definitely are.
That sounds heavenly. Love it. I love it. I love it. That is just wow. Can you imagine? I mean, there's been so many incredible pictures. We've created a whole artist nirvana here. And,
right.
But what's beautiful about it is you have this creative health and this transcendence project. I mean, we'll just be high on natural energy.
Right.
It sounds beautiful. So is that already in process, Tammy?
It is. I co-authored a book with one of the co-creators, Flicka Ron. She actually authored the book. I wrote the final chapter, but it is called The Transformative Power of Sound and Music. The Transformational Power of Sound and Music. And she actually is a sound healer and a musician. She's a singer, composer, and an educator. And so she really did a whole study of all of the indigenous cultures around the world and how they use music for sacred purposes. They use music to heal in all indigenous cultures. And only until more recent times have we just relegated music to entertainment, but not really, honored it for its healing properties and purposes. And so I think that, that is, so we have come together with Eric Rankin and Alana Luna. These are other people that are in the space of transformational sound and frequency. And we are looking to co-create this transformative, transcendent experience. So it's in the works, but it really is the coming together of like minds and hearts and intent in creating this new form of experiential entertainment.
Sounds dreamy. and
I know. I can't wait to experience it myself.
This is what's magical about being in such a challenging place. So you've just spoken about the challenges artists experience, the challenges you experience as a mom with your child. Yet look what comes out of it. Yeah, look. And as humanity, where we are right now in such a challenged place, yet the creativity and the expression and the collaboration and the change in old habits that don't work, it's just, I don't know. I mean, you're in these creative spaces, so you must be blown away constantly by what people can come up with. It's just incredible when you give people the platform. Yeah. What comes is just, and you think, wow, is that possible? And before you know it, it's totally possible. So amazing. I love the work you're doing. It really is incredible. What would you say, Tammy, is your most treasured success story?
Gosh. Creating this community, creating this space. But I will say one of the most treasured success stories I would have to say is being a part of creating a nonprofit with 4 other mothers of autistic children, now all adults actually. And we actually did a documentary called Diagnosis, where we each shared our experience of first getting that diagnosis. And a filmmaker by the name of Nia Hill actually created this short film where she weaved in each of our stories with a fictional story of a family that was going through this process that each of us went through. And that short actually won at the Cannes Film Festival. But more importantly, we as mothers all for a bill to be renewed for it was the Combating Autism Act of 2006. We sat down and met with the Black and Hispanic caucuses, and we actually were very instrumental in that bill being reauthorized. And it meant that over $3 billion was put into research and other services for autism and other disabilities. So I think, just knowing that you had a part in helping so many people get services and further research I think that was one of my proudest moments. And also just, creating that documentary, because a lot of families were really blessed by just us sharing that story, because it's with autism, especially when you're dealing with children on the lower end of the spectrum, there's a lot of denial. I remember when I first got the diagnosis, my aunt, who's an educator, she said to me, you might want to go and have him just have him assessed to see what's going on. And I'll tell you, although I knew something was wrong, I won't say wrong, but something was different. I was angry at her. I was like, how dare you? Like, I was just, but that was just my own pain, right? That was how but that happens a lot, I think, with, just the not knowing, the embarrassment, the shame, the whatever, when you have a child with special needs. I think that's a part of the process that people go through. And it's difficult when you see your friends and other people who have, healthy, normal children who are, accomplishing all of these things, and, you're dealing with something completely different. It can be very, very, very difficult and challenging to deal with. So, and I found also that, a lot of times marriages break up around it, because it's difficult for, sometimes for fathers or, families just to stay together around it. So, that doing that documentary really, was a great help, I think, for, allowing others to see us share our experiences and to be empowered by them. So those two things, I think, helping in that space has been one of my greatest joys.
I would say that's a pretty awesome treasure. Yeah. So one last question, Tammy. If you were able to share a message with everyone on this planet, what would you want to share?
This might really sound trite, but literally, love is all that matters. Love is really the only truth. Like everything else, all of this hate, this division, they're all distractions, That's not who we are. I think understanding along with love, getting understanding, because I think we can only hate or, fight that which we don't understand. So I think getting understanding and loving oneself, because you can't really love anybody else until you can love yourself. Love and understanding, seek it. That's all that matters. Be it. That's all that matters, really. And I think that we can overcome any and all that we're dealing with in this world. And release the judgment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the fear.
Yeah, I love
fear and judgment. Release, embrace, understanding and love.
Understanding and love. Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful message. Thank you. This has been, I almost don't want it to end. This has been just a
Thank you.
Magical hour.
It has. I've just so enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah, and I'm so enjoying in with you, and thank you, Tammy, for making the time and just bringing your magic, your creative expression, and your spirit and your ethos. And what's really struck me right through is you're such a woman of substance. And I just did an interview earlier with Wendy Diamond. Maybe you know of her, and she's all about empowering women. I mean, she's given her entire life to empowering women, and so you're such a beautiful role model of a woman that has been through some really tough times and come through and taken that stuff and turned it into treasures that you can bless others with now. And thank you for being that woman that has done that and paved the way and shown us what it's like, that the challenges can be turned. And this incredible methodology that you're bringing into the world. And I just love the creative health, the reframing. Let's just tap in and be authentic and love and understand. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carmen.
And
bless you. Thank you.
You too. And I cannot wait to be part of that amazing Transcendence musical festivities or festival, whatever it is going to be. Can't wait. I hope it'll be digital, so whatever is going down in the world, we can attend it.
Yes. Well, we will. It is an in-person experience that we envision, but I think that we'll be able to have those again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you, Tammy, again for your magic. And to those of you listening, watching, I have no doubt you've been inspired, just as I have been. There's so much magic. Tap into that authentic expression and let's co-create. Let's bring our minds and our beautiful artistry together and co-create value. And we absolutely will create a new human story that we will be proud of. Till next time, lots of love.